Hey guys, do you want to generate compost but you don't want to have to go through the hassle of having a compost pile and having to turn it all the time and take its temperature and you don't want to buy a compost tumbler? Well, what I'm doing here with this bed, I'm going to be using what's called the lasagna gardening method. Basically what it is that you're layering browns and greens in a pile, and then you're letting it sit for months to let it compost and decompose itself without having to turn it. So it's a slow process. They also call it sheet composting. So what I've done here is this is a bed that I'm not going to be using until next spring. So I've laid down some paper and then some cardboard and then some grass clippings. So I've got my browns and my greens. So I'm going to be laying a little bit more brown down, and then I'm going to be putting more greens on. I'm going to for the next layer of greens, I'm going to be using a whole bunch of kitchen scraps that I have that I'm not going to be putting in the tumbler. So I'm just going to keep alternating. Now for my browns, a lot of people have a really tough time generating their carbon source, their browns. And let me show you what I'm going to do is let me throw a few more layers of grass and some kitchen scraps and what on here, and then I'll show you what I'm doing to generate my carbon source. All right. Okay, one of the difficulties that people have is actually finding enough browns. So I went ahead and threw in all my nitrogen, which is kitchen scraps and whatnot. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and throw some wood chips in here. Now I'm not going to go buy wood chips because I just think having to buy everything is just defeating the purpose of growing your own food, right? It's to save money and be independent. If you're buying your chips and your soil and everything, you're not saving money and you're not independent. So so I went ahead and threw in a whole bunch of table scraps here, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to throw some wood chips in, and let me show you where I get my wood chips. That's right, an electric wood chipper. Now before you guys all die from laughter, you have to remember one thing. Nothing I do here is on an industrial scale. In other words, I'm not generating tons of wood chips. I'm just generating enough to fill my raised beds, to mulch trees and things like that, and my vegetable garden. And believe it or not, this thing will make short order of anything that's 1.5 inches around or smaller. And I do a lot of trimming on like my lilacs, roses, and apple trees. All the trimming I do, it just goes right through this thing. And I mean, for under $200, I can pretty much generate as much wood chip as I want. So yeah, it's not an industrial type scale. I'm not gonna be filling a whole dump truck load and selling or anything like that, but it does great. So yeah, laugh if you want to, but no, this thing, within 15 minutes I can generate enough wood chips for a nice beautiful inch or so layer right here, and then I'll put more kitchen scraps on top of it, greens, maybe some grass clippings, things like that, more wood chips. And this is where I'm basically getting most of my browns from, is from the chipper. So I do a lot of trimming on trees and whatnot, and normally this stuff would probably go, I don't know, it'd go into a big pile and let it just keep breaking down. And it takes years for anything, even if it's just 1/4 inch or an inch around, it takes years and years for it to break down and compost. So this speeds it up. So go ahead and do some of these. Want to make sure that you use gloves and eye protection and never stick your fingers inside of it. It's got this little push stick here. This thing makes short order of twigs, branches, leaves, you name it. Just have to make sure that your branches are straight, because it doesn't like bends. push stick is awesome. That's a half a tub right there. Let me show you what you get here. I mean, like I say, it's not an industrial chipper, but this is what you get. This is really pretty good right here. I'm perfectly happy with that. So that was just a few minutes. You saw it. Half of a tub right there. So I mean, within the course of 15 minutes, I'll have enough here to completely put another layer on there. I'm going to go ahead and do some of the trimming on the lilacs and roses here, and trim those and shred them, and that'll give me a layer. And I'll just keep building this up, building it up, and we'll have ourselves a nice lasagna garden. Okay, so just to recap, what you do with the lasagna method is you want to just keep alternating and stacking your layers. Greens and browns, just as high as you possibly can, because this stuff is going to break down. And I've got some greens on there now. I'm going to put some browns on, and I mean, I've got browns on now. I'm going to put greens on and just keep stacking. I'm going to make this thing probably 3 feet tall, because it's going to break down, it's going to shrink, and then by spring I'll be ready to plant in this. So there we go, the lasagna gardening methods. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for any updates to this, and we'll catch y'all later.